Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dadab. No, I am, believe it or not going to complain about technical issues. There were no technical issues. I just gave myself the day off yesterday. I don't know, having a hard time getting myself to just do stuff. And I'm like, you've been going for a long time. Every day, sometimes people take breaks. Maybe you could do it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that. So I did. But I'm going to make it up to you either way, because we're going to do some laughing at the enemy today. We do have quite a bit of stuff to get caught up on, so it's not going to be the entire time. But don't worry, I got plenty of nice and juicy content for you. And we might be doing more than just today also. We'll see how it goes. But again, obviously we have to start talking about the Vikings. I almost did that today because somebody's talking about stuff, and I get that itch to like look into it. Their offensive line is terrible, and it's like, really? And it's like, oh yeah, it's real bad. So then it's like, well, why are they succeeding? And you start trying to find like those weak points. Like, all right, just relax. Today's laughing at the enemy. So first of all, on the news front, I suppose we should start with Brett Favre announcing he has Parkinson's. It's obviously a big deal, especially for a guy that has been big on the whole CTE thing, because it seems probable that is the cause of the Parkinson's. My mind immediately went to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was boxing for you. Obviously, these guys get concussion after concussion after concussion, and he ended up with Parkinson's. Not a guarantee that it's because of that, but I forgot what the statistic was, but I think it had something to do with the odds of somebody that had suffered CTE or regular concussions or whatever getting it are just astronomically high compared to just your average citizen or whatever. So I know he's not the most popular guy considering a lot of the scandals he's been through, but I can't. A lot of the people I like are scumbags. There's a lot of actors, a lot of musicians, horrible human beings. Brett Favre was my childhood, and it's just something you obviously never wish on any human being to have to go through that. My uncle has it. It's not, it's not good. It's not good. Couple different comments on that. One of them from current QB1 Jordan Love.
Matt Regardi also alluded it to hits to the head, something that you've ever thought about or you just can't think about. Is that, just your thought on that?
Yeah, I did see the news, and definitely be praying for Brett. It's a very tough situation, and no, I think in terms of playing the game, taking hits to the head, it's one of those things that we know the risk as players. We know we signed up for it, and it's out there. But it's one of those things you don't think about as a player. You just go out there and play, and give it your all, give it your best, and kind of just leave it all on the field.
It's always hard to kind of hear those. The background noise sometimes can be as loud as the quarterback with the microphone in his face for some reason. Not very good microphones, I guess. It does really put a lot of things in perspective. We talk about like the risks and whatnot. I think, at least for me, a lot of times when I think about the risks, I think about immediate risk. I think less about long-term risk, which I think is what most players are thinking about. You think about taking a big hit from a defensive tackle and it's like a car crash. I think it's easier, at least for me, to say, bro, you get paid a lot of money, take the hit. Because I can quantify that. It's easy to look at it and be like, that would suck, but I would do it for $1 million. I would take, give me the most fierce freaking safety coming from deep and just knocking me out. Like, that's going to suck, but I would do it for the amount of money these guys get. Even severe things like torn ACL, like I tore my ACL. It hurts bad. And then you got surgery and recovery, which I did not do, but I'm sure that sucks also. But again, you can kind of look at that and be like, yeah, but I think the money's probably worth. When you start talking about long-term stuff, when you're talking about, in 20 years, which is not that long, and I'm still very young, and I'm trying to raise a family and stuff, I might be looking at Parkinson's, at severe memory loss, Alzheimer's, not to mention the long-term debilitating issues that I may have with my joints and all these other things. It's not to say it's a guarantee. We see a lot of these football players that are still on TV. They're still in great shape, perfect health. Probably healthier than 90% of America. They're doing okay. But it's just, I'm just saying, it's got to kind of shake you to your core a little bit. as much as it's scary thinking, dude, I don't want to freaking pop my Achilles or something like that's got to hurt like crazy. Like there's guys who have their, leg bones broken and stuff. Like, oh, geez, I can't. Like I know stuff like that's coming, and I don't want to deal with it. That's one kind of fear. This is a whole other kind of a thing that I think has got to give people pause, and it does for me, but especially for football players, knowing and on top of that, you're seeing what's going on with Tua. And by the way, let me just say I'm concerned with how we all seem to be pushing toward not only he'll be fine, but he'll be back. I don't want to have to end a guy's career. And again, I've already commented on the fact that I'm glad he got paid. And as much as that might sound insensitive or whatever, what I mean by that is he needs to walk away. And it would be harder for me to say that if the guy still hasn't gotten paid. But now that he has, I don't know how much of it is guaranteed. I'm guessing a huge amount, more than enough to set him up for life. And maybe because of his prior injuries, maybe the Miami Dolphins did kind of shaft him a little bit like, look, bro, if you take another headshot, we can nullify this, which would be a super douchey thing to do. But again, it's just you watch that on TV and then hear from Brett, and it's like he can't come back. I mean, the NFL just can't allow it. Like, do whatever you got to do, but at some point, somebody's got to step in and say, we can't do this. We can't. Like, the odds that you're not going to have long-term serious, like, brain health issues have got to be slim for him. Like, there's no way. There's no freaking way. It's one of the worst cases I've ever seen. Like, we've seen Brett and all these guys take some severe hits where they get up staggering and whatnot. They're very likely concussed. That's a whole other issue what Tua's been dealing with. And it's numerous times. It's just, no. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Maybe I'm way off, but I don't think I am. I mean, you get to a point where you have to do what's right for him. And what's right for him is he needs to retire. What else we got here? I don't think there's a bunch of NFL news that's super interesting. I was tempted to talk about that weird college thing that's going on, but I don't want to waste too much time. Why don't we talk about PFF just real quick? I don't want to waste a lot of time. If you've been paying attention on social media, there's kind of a flare-up of things. It's kind of old news, actually, but it resurfaced. So we've actually talked about this after the Eagles game. Rashawn Gary got a sack against Lane Johnson, and PFF didn't say it was a sack. And I said, interestingly enough, neither did SIS. In fact, I don't know if let me check if NFL Pro has him down for. Actually, it doesn't show offensive lineman, so I can't tell. It'll tell me Rashawn got a sack, but it won't say against who. Anyways, that flared back up because they put up a graphic of the 3 offensive linemen that have never given up a sack. Zach Tom is one of them. Colts guard, I can't think of his name, whatever, and then Lane Johnson. And so it came up again, and I threw a few comments out there, whatever, and they actually got community noted on that. Twitter had put out a thing basically saying, here's the data that shows that he was assigned to do this. So PFF then issued a statement explaining why they graded it that way. And there was a whole bunch of like confusion, especially toward me and what I was saying in regards to my response to it. A lot of people are I don't know. There's a lot of argument back and forth. First of all, let me just say a lot of the people that agreed with me are just very anti-PFF, and they're coming out with, see, this is why they're trash and this is why it's useless. I'm certainly not taking it there. I don't think that this necessarily changes my perspective on them a ton, because the point is, here's the thing, and I think I've mentioned this before. PFF is still just watching tape. That's what it is. And so if you say PFF is useless, you're kind of saying so is watching tape. Now, you could just say that they're significantly worse at it, which is an argument you can make. But here's the thing. The reason why I generally always give up on grading players is for exactly situations like this. There are nothing is clean. Nothing is ever easy. We always picture like sacks and things given up and all this as just being these very robotic, like this is exactly what it is every single time. It's not. Every single one is slightly different. And there's always situations where you look at it and go, okay, I think this is the system. And then you see something, you're like, well, what about this? It's like, well, all right, I think in that situation, maybe we'll do that, and maybe you have to change your whole grading system. And it's nothing but constant gray area. In this particular instance, essentially what had happened is a Packers defensive tackle jumped. The center snapped it early, trying to catch him, and didn't. Some people came out and said, well, he didn't block because he thought there was a flag, which is a stupid thing to say because it wasn't actually a penalty. It wasn't an uncalled penalty. He didn't catch him. The whole point, though, is the center snapped it early, and Lane Johnson didn't necessarily react very quickly, and so Rashawn was able to get past him. And so I think from PFF's perspective, they look at it and go, do we want to ding him with a sack, which would make it seem like he's worse than he is? In other words, like, it's not that he didn't win athletically necessarily. It's just there were these extenuating circumstances. My issue is not the fact that there's a gray area, and it's not the fact that they had to make a decision. I vehemently disagree with their decision. Look, there are always situations that occur. The bottom line is, though, if you're an offensive tackle, when the ball is snapped, your job is to react in a timely manner and block the guy that is across from you. And to say that it was impossible for him to do it is immediately negated by the fact that the other 4 offensive linemen were able to do it. And if you go back and watch it, you can see the center snapped it. All the other 4 guys were a little bit slow to react, but only one of them was very slow to react, and that was Lane Johnson. He still gave up the sack. Now, if you want to grade it differently and say, usually a sack is -2, we're going to give him -1.5 or something because it's a little bit, that's fine, whatever. But he still gave up a sack, and you need to record it as such. So anyways, the larger point is even less to do with that. It's kind of, okay, let's step back and big picture this for a second. The issue still comes down to what it's always been. The problem with stats, and this is why, when people nobody's ever happy. It's just, there are a lot of people who want to just believe whatever they want to believe. And if you throw stats at them, they say, well, that's stupid. Stats don't have enough context. And if you throw tape at them, they say, well, that's too subjective. The bottom line is they just want everything that disagrees with their subjective, just I sat on the couch, watched something, and feel like somebody had a good game or bad game. And they want that to be good enough. And they have very lazy arguments to make everything go away, even though it's technically true. But here's the bottom line. Statistics are too rigid. I gave you an example of this recently, when I discovered that there is a metric for pass rushers. Maybe it wasn't pass rushers, maybe it was the quarterbacks, but it's how many sacks or pressures were under 2.5 seconds. That's a majorly important, and I would love to expand on that issue, because how many pass rushers that end up with 10, 12 sacks have really good secondaries that allow him more time to get to the quarterback than maybe anybody else in the NFL. Meaning maybe it's not necessarily his talent. Maybe he just has an easier job. And if everybody else had 3.5 seconds to get to the quarterback, they'd have a bunch of sacks too. It's a very important metric. But the thing is, there's always these whatabouts, and you try to statistically cover up for the whatabouts with all these like nuanced things. Well, we add this and add this and add this. That's why when you listen to my podcast, you hear some of the most obnoxious and obscene things that are, even when I read it, I'm like, I sound like such a tool right now. But it's like the CPOE, DOA, VBG squared metric. But the whole point of that is like really trying to contextualize the data to form it around the situation as best as possible. Tape watching like perfectly forms it around things. But the problem is it doesn't have any rigidity. I would think of it as like if you're trying to, draw a picture, and with one thing, or you're trying to draw an image or whatever, and you're given blocks with one, which is very hard because it's very rigid shapes. So if it's like draw or construct a car, maybe you could do because it's somewhat rigid, but it lacks the contours and the smoothness and all the whatever that you need for a car. The other is like if somebody gave you a sheet. It's perfectly conforming, but it's hard to actually get the output. Let me give you this example. I think this is maybe the best example. If you look at AI image generation, there's basically 2 different things at work. Midjourney for a long time was the best one. And even today, it outputs some of the highest quality images you can find, but there's one major problem with Midjourney. Its comprehension of what you want is garbage. If I say I want a logo for my Packers podcast, it might just create a football. Like, what the F are you doing? That's stats. Its ability to conform exactly what you want to understand is very limited. but its output is beautiful. The amount of data that you can get and questions that can be answered and all this stuff, it's incredible. But it's not perfectly conforming to what exactly you want. Then you get some other ones like, Dolly 3 or whatever it is that you can find in GPT that does a great job of understanding exactly what you want, but its output is kind of cartoonish. So it's, on one hand, I can't use it because it's not what I actually want, although I could admire the beauty of it. The other one kind of is what I want, but it's not a high enough quality. That would be the sort of film aspect. It's not just PFF, it's watching film. Because it is true that Lane Johnson gave up a sack. It's also true that there is nuance there that would make it not as egregious as a guy that got off the line on time and just got thrown on his back because he sucks. There's gradients to everything. Nothing is exactly 1 or 0, like giving up a sack is a yes or no answer. Statistics say it is, but it's not. Everything's very nuanced. Maybe one final example, and we'll move off of this, and I think we'll just launch into laughing at the enemy. But one of the things I looked at, too, with the time to sack thing was Caleb Williams. Because the argument is he's constantly under pressure. Well, you look at his pressures, he's been pressured like 40 times, and I'll get the exact numbers at another time, but I want to say he was pressured something like 40 times, and the amount of times he was pressured in under 2.5 seconds was like 5. That's staggering to me. The problem is I went back, because you can use NFL Pro, click on all his pressures so I can see every single snap that he had in which he was under pressure. I pulled out my stopwatch. The first 5 pressures, if they weren't 2.5 seconds, it was like 2.6. So then you look at it and say, well, no, he's not. If you just use the stats, you can say, well, as far as 2.5 or less seconds, he was only pressured 5 times, so that's not an excuse. Okay, but where is the exact line? Because 2.51 seconds, 2.53 seconds, 2.6, 2.61, even those are really difficult. And on top of that, there's further context, because sometimes it is a little bit longer. It's like 2.8, but the receivers haven't even come out of their breaks yet, either because they're slow receivers or the offensive coordinator is an idiot and sends everybody 15 yards down the field. There's so much context and nuance that the stats are rendered useless. But when you acknowledge how much nuance there is, like with PFF, and you understand that they're making quote-unquote business decisions with almost every single play, and you may disagree with the way in which they go on either side of this, you understand that their conclusion on a player could end up being the exact opposite or very different than what your conclusion would be based on how you make those business decisions. So you don't know if, not even that necessarily that you can't trust them, just that what if you just have a different opinion on like the Lane Johnson situation or whatever. The bottom line is, man, nothing is complete garbage, but nothing is perfect. In fact, everything is very far from perfect. I do think the accumulation of things over time, that's why I said PFF, if somebody says over 3 games you've got a 28 grade, you probably suck. There might be some nuance here or there, but you're not great. Same with statistics. If you end the season with 18 sacks, yeah, maybe you got a good secondary. Maybe there's a guy on the other side that people are scared of also. But you're a good freaking pass rusher, especially if you do it from year to year. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because that's been kind of blowing up lately. And again, I am not on the anti-PFF thing from the standpoint of I think that they're garbage. I just think you need to understand that that's how it goes when you're watching film. You have to make those kinds of business decisions. Again, I'm frustrated with the fact that every time we find out about them, they go in a direction that I don't agree with. There's the same thing where they said Demario Davis didn't miss a single tackle like all year or something, and he very blatantly missed that tackle on Jordan, and they came up with some kind of an excuse about it. But it's like, bro, you're always making the wrong decision, and it's annoying me. So, again, I'm going to provide everything. You can kind of make those decisions, but I do think it's important to recognize that. Sometimes it's good to zoom all the way in with the context. Sometimes it's great to zoom all the way out with like the big picture statistics. A lot of times, which is the best, is when it all kind of comes together into a cohesive picture. When they disagree, you have to then make those business decisions or maybe try to find the nuance in between there. Like sometimes, for example, when the stats indicate they had a great day pass rushing, the grades say they don't. Well, again, the PFF grades are really a consistency metric, in my opinion, and the stats are the stats. So it's pretty straightforward to me what the full picture actually is. But, anyways, just wanted to try to clarify that because there's a whole lot of people sort of misunderstanding my perspective on what exactly my thoughts were on that. All right, why don't we take our first break? And we got some clips, man. We got some clips. We're going to have some fun today. I did say I want to do a bunch of other teams. Today, though, I want to start with the Bears because at the very least, I want to make sure that we hammer this because it's funny. But I've got a little bit of Titans, Cowboys, whatever. We might save for another day. We'll see how this goes. But we'll take a break. We'll be right back. I also want to mention before we get into it, and again, I sometimes say things and I don't stick to it, but I just want to make you aware of something. I've been very much interested in sort of the betting side of this, and I don't want to obviously turn this into a betting show because that's not why most people are here. But I decided what I would do is maybe some of the more statistical deep dives or whatever the heck it is, I'm going to try to put maybe on like the Substack is kind of where I decided. Some of it will be free. I think the last one I did is completely free. So if you pay for it, like you'll obviously get access to more stuff. But there'll also be like if you're just free, if you don't want to pay but you're curious, I would encourage you to subscribe. It's I'm sure I got it right. Yeah, it's just packernet.substack.com. But really just nerding out on some of this stuff. My last one was the math behind Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a sponsor here, so I thought I'd start there because I want to understand. I'm playing it. I want to understand it. And the context behind that was I actually did quite well. I came up with a strategy on how to bet and what to bet and how much to bet and all that. And on two of the bets, I bet 6 legs, which is just 6 parlay bets or whatever. Call them legs, I guess. I don't know. I'm new to all this crap. And there's a lot of common knowledge out there about parlays are bad, especially the more you do, the less likely you are to win. But that's not necessarily the case. Depends on what the payout structure is. And so I went through the payout structure for Prize Picks, and I came up with statistically the best bets to make. In other words, should you bet 3 legs, 4 legs, 5, because some of them are 2x, 5x, whatever. Went through all the different things and came up with the best statistical. And not only that, it's a matter of percentage. So what percent do you need to be right to win if you bet these? And so what you're essentially looking for is the lowest percentage. Right? If you need to be right 80% of the time to cash out, don't do it. You're never going to hit 80% of the time. But if it's like 53 and you think you can get a little bit of an edge and maybe hit on 60% or 55, you can start making some money. So I wanted to start with that baseline. If you wanted to go check that out, packernet.substack.com. And then I'm going to continue to elaborate on that stuff with potentially some strategies or, and again, also getting into other types of betting and whatnot, but we'll see how she goes. All right, let's do the thing. Let me just start by saying one of the things that makes me very happy, and I really think there's going to be less fighting between me and Bears fans this year because I'm starting to see for the first time since before Justin Fields, I'm beginning to see rational Bears fans again. I didn't think it would happen. I really didn't. But it makes sense. It's been a long time. Let me just go to this tweet real quick. This is from Swift Sports Network. It's a Bears guy that I'm just starting to notice more. And this is the other thing. Bears fans are split to begin with. There was a Justin Fields contingent that came into this. So they were already anti-Caleb. So there's already like a weird thing going on with Bears fans. And then I think you just also have other Bears fans that are just freaking tired of it. But anyways, he says a lot of the same people who preached patience with Justin Fields for 4 years want to give up on Caleb after 3 games. This fan base is insane. And there's a lot of that too. Like, what is wrong with the fan base? What is wrong with our media? Which is hilarious because they had the most, you want to talk about bootlicking, like everybody was lockstep prior to this. But now there's actual like divergent thought and people are like, we have the worst fan base. No, you have, as far as loyalty to the team, you have one of the best fan bases that there is. I'm sorry, Packer fans. We are not a very loyal team or fan base. We're just not. Like you go through our roster right now and you will see a lot of people, some of which have done a lot of good for the Packers, people hate. Rashawn Gary, everybody hates. Jair, people hate. Musgrave, I don't think he's been bad. Oh, he's done. He's cooked. Get him out of here. Like, it's like, we're not that kind of a fan base. But my response to this was essentially, yeah, maybe people got tired of it. Maybe it's because it's almost been a decade. Think about that. A decade almost from the time of Trubisky through Fields, where they had been preached patience, where they had exercised patience, and they've come to realize that, first of all, we know how this movie ends. right? We thought Trubisky could do it, and it just didn't happen. We thought Fields would just automatically get better, and it didn't happen. So no, I'm not going to just sit here and assume Williams gets better. I'm actually going to be of the position that, you know what, you're bad until you can prove you're good, which, you know what, is the position everybody should have about every player. I'm not saying you have to go out and say it. I'm not going to say it about Packard like we drafted him like, he's trash unless he can prove otherwise. I'm not going to do that. But that is the stance. That is the standard. Most players are bad. So that's kind of where you start until you can prove it. The other thing is, I think even the ones that don't think Caleb has been bad, but they understand the organization is bad, why should they have patience? Because it's not even about Caleb. I have no faith in this organization to cultivate anything out of Caleb. And on top of that, and this is part of what we're going to get into, on top of the just complete lack of faith in the organization and the fear because we're seeing Caleb look a lot like the other guys, on top of all that, you're getting hit from every other angle. Justin Fields is 3-0 on another team right now and is playing better. Now, it's wildly exaggerated how good he looks. I don't care. I'm going to play along with it. But he's 3-0, and he is playing better. Then you've got Jaden Daniels, which, by the way, the Bears arrogantly refuse to talk to anybody else. They only talk to Caleb. If Jaden or anybody else becomes a good quarterback and Caleb isn't, that's fireable. In fact, it's almost fireable just by itself. The fact that Ryan Poles was so arrogant to not even speak to any other quarterback, to not even try to understand nothing, didn't send a low-level scout to have a lunch with Jaden, nothing, refused. And now you got Jaden, who's really starting to tear it up. In fact, his last game was so good, he's one of the highest graded quarterbacks via PFF in the entire NFL. And yes, I'm still going to reference that again. If you were listening, I still think it's a good resource as long as you understand the situation. But there is a major rift among Bears fans right now, with many of them just I think the people who are positive are in the minority, and they're not used to it. The Fields people have been attacking him for a long time, and now sort of the center is moving toward the Fields people's side, not necessarily because they care about Fields, but they're moving away from this just nonsense loyalty that everything's going to be fine. They're done with it, and they should be. Good for them. I'm on your side. You're right. You should be tired of this. You should be annoyed. This is incompetence to a level that has rarely, if ever, been seen. Let me give you another example. So we got this guy, Joey, and his @ is Caleb Goat QB1. So, and it literally says Caleb Williams propaganda. He has 3,100 followers, despite the fact that his @ must have been very recent. I'm guessing he's a newer account. He joined September 2021. Within 3 weeks, you have 670 the score. We've played them plenty of times on here. These very loyal Chicago media. And I understand, like, some, you get the call-in shows, the AM radio, like some of these guys are just seething at the mouth. I know it's like they don't have that. But the guys that we've played, the guys that are on YouTube, they are loyalist to a fault. 670 of the score says, extra point next on Mullyhaw, whatever that is. Did the Bears take the wrong QB1 with number 1 pick in the NFL draft? And it's a picture of Jaden Daniels. And of course, Caleb fans are furious that this is coming up. They hate how good Jaden looks. They hate that the media has pivoted off of Caleb. They don't care anymore, which makes me so happy, by the way. This is what we didn't have. By the way, Bo Nix took a big step also. But even if he didn't, Jaden looking great, I'm so happy. And I want Fields to be great. I want Jaden to be great. I want Bo Nix to be great. I want frickin' Drake May to go off. Because I just want the entire NFL media, who has been gushing over Caleb forever because of his upside, to simply look at this and go, let's go look at this guy, and just never talk about Caleb because it's not interesting because he's not that good. Joey says, do we have the worst media in the NFL? First of all, no. And I'm not talking about the Packers. I like our media for the most part. I mean, they do a great job of covering everything. But you guys have had gushing media forever, and you just have one guy ask a simple question, which is a very reasonable question. And the fact of the matter is, many people never questioned it, and it's your fault. And it's guys like Joey that had Caleb as their guy since last year before the draft, they were gushing over the fact that their team sucked and they were about to draft Caleb. Never even considered this. He was the type of guy that when a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, came out and said, I don't think Caleb's the best quarterback. I think Jaden's better. They lost their mind. You're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. In fact, Kurt Benkert was one of those guys. Haven't been a huge fan of his, but he was on this train. He said Jaden was better than Caleb, and Bears fans flipped out. He actually pulled a bunch of receipts, and he's like, oh, look at all these receipts. Might be too early for receipt season, but I respected that he did it. And so, I just love... there's a lot of things I don't agree with that I'm absolutely on board with just because it upsets the loyalist Bears fans. For example, this J.P. Finley, whoever he is, Herb Street, before the draft, quote, you're going to have all your draft gurus hype up Drake May and Caleb Williams, but Jaden Daniels is the absolute steal of this draft. Again, it's maybe too early, but I don't care. The fact that everybody's coming out victory lapping, and a lot of people did have Jaden ahead. I distinctly remember that. They're all coming out of the woodwork, or at least a lot of them are, doing victory laps. Like, I told you he's better than Caleb. So they've got to defend themselves against their own fans, against their own media, against the national media, all of which, by the way, were on their team a year ago when it was Justin Fields. The local media was all in on Fields. Every Bears fan, at least on Twitter, there were some that after the fact came out like, well, I wasn't one of them. Like, okay, yeah, where were you all those years of me fighting Bears fans? I never saw one Bear fan agree with me. Anyways. And you've also got the national media now. If they're not moving against Caleb, they're at least moving off of Caleb. And they're losing their minds. And then to make matters worse, as I said, Justin Fields. They are so pissed that everybody is gushing about Fields. And again, I don't think he looks great. But it doesn't matter. He's 3-0. People are saying that he's a great quarterback. And I love it. Got a guy, Alex Rollins, here. I don't think he's a Bears fan. But this is sort of the Bears fans are in the comments like gushing over this. He says the entire NFL media when Justin Fields is on pace for 11 touchdown passes, and it's McMahon from WWE like flipping over in his chair. You got Dim Flus, which I don't fully understand, but I'm assuming it's a Bears, Eberflus reference. Says Fields is the same guy. His defense is allowing 8 points a game. If you hold opponents to 10, 6, and 10 respectively, you should be winning those games. This isn't complicated. Again, he's probably right, but the fact that they're having to fight on all fronts, trying to now attack Justin Fields, who they've been defending for years, to try to do exactly what we did to them, by saying, no, he's not good. It's the defense. He doesn't have any touchdowns. Suddenly they become super hyper-rational fans who understand the nuance of football, especially when it comes to the guy that they refuse to see it with in Justin Fields. Here is one of the loyalists for the Chicago Bears. This is CHGO. We play this all the time. Again, you got a wide swath of Bears media. This is one of the most bootlicking loyalist stations and one of the most loyalist guys on the station. Here's what he had to say with the week 3 hot takes, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
And as it goes for Justin Fields, I hate that this is happening. I kind of assumed we were going to get to this point. We were going to have to do this at some point because it is really no slight at Justin. Justin is the same quarterback. Is anybody actually watching what he's doing there? He's the same guy. And by the way, this is not a knock. It's the same guy we all told you was a starter in the NFL. He's proving that. Good for him. He went to a good organization that he wanted to go to. Good on the Bears for honoring it. He goes to the Steelers where they coach football really well, and they are putting him in a position to succeed, which is what your job is as coaches. And honestly, you could argue so far in Chicago, they're not doing that with Caleb, and Caleb's having some success despite that. Justin Fields.
You had to throw that in there because they're convinced he's growing. He's getting better. I don't know why you guys don't see it. He's getting better. And all they're pointing at, honestly, is, there are a couple different statistics, but one of them I have to look into yet. The biggest one is look at how many yards he threw for. Bro, he threw it 53 times. Jeez.
Fields is the same quarterback.
And again, he's coming at it from a different perspective. He's the same quarterback. So the funny thing is, I don't even know, should I intervene in something like this? And I don't think so, because as much as you might look at it and say, these freaking guys are still defending Fields, I can't believe it. Do you know what's worse than almost anything than drafting bad quarterbacks and whatnot for your entire history? if after over 100 years of history, you've never really had a premier quarterback, and you had one, and you then gave him away for, what did they give him away for? Like a 4th-round pick or something stupid? I don't really think that's the case. I don't think Fields was ever going to be the guy. It doesn't really matter the coaching. You can say, well, then how are the Steelers doing it? Again, the other guy explained it pretty well. I mean, they have enough built around him. And it's not to say that you couldn't build a team around him, but you could certainly always do better than Fields. The Steelers absolutely can. And they may even bench him when Russ comes back, and Russ sucks. But the point is, if Bears fans want to take that stance, that we've never, ever had a good quarterback, and we had one and we gave him away, and that was a mistake, I'm not going to interrupt that line of thinking. Please think that. That is the best thing ever. Because it means, number one, your organization is useless and it will never make a quarterback good. So Caleb is cooked. Number two, you're kind of saying we should have never drafted Caleb, who is on your team at your quarterback right now, which is freaking hilarious. And again, you're saying that you had a starting franchise quarterback finally, and you gave him a... I don't think he even realizes what a terrible light he just put the Bears in. I mean, he wasn't speaking pleasantly about the Bears. He's like, and based on Caleb, I don't know that we actually, you could make an argument that maybe we don't have a good organization or whatever. Bro, it's so much worse than that. All right, let's get into a few more of these videos that I got. I'm going to have to do a lot of editing because there's a whole lot of swear words, but a lot of this is post-game. And I've organized it into different categories. We got to decide which way to go. But since we're kind of starting with the organization, let's go ahead and start there, shall we? Let's go with these three. I'm not entirely sure who this is. Is it this guy, Pat the Designer? Maybe it is. I think so. He posted his own clip. Pat the Designer, Chicago Bears podcaster, YouTuber, whatever. Here's what he had to say.
Where this season goes will 100% land on Ryan Poles, and that is where 100% of my blame goes for this week 3, for week 2, for week 1, for this season, because you got arrogant. You drafted a punter.
Thank you. First of all, I'm so glad that Bears fans who have been, I want to say it so bad, but it's inappropriate, goot-licking polls, you put it together. They've been bootlicking this guy forever. Best GM. He's so good. Up until like a week ago, they're arguing that he did a great job. And again, not only has his history been terrible, not only has he never built anything in Chicago which the team sucks, this last offseason was one of the worst offseasons I've ever seen. And everybody's gushing over it. Look at the wide receivers he got. Oh, look at what he did. He drafted Caleb. How could you say that was bad? He drafted wide receiver very easily. You had no business bringing in an additional wide receiver. Keenan Allen was stupid. He's 32 years old. This is a 1-year deal. Are you saying this is your all-in year? You're a moron if you think this is our all-in year. Beyond that, you have way bigger needs. You have a wide receiver 1. You don't need a second wide receiver 1, you moron. Beyond that, drafting Caleb does not go to your credit, especially now when it looks like Jaden might have been the better decision, but either way, that was handed to you. The wide receiver Roma Dunze should not have been selected, especially since you brought in a second wide receiver. That pick should have been traded because you had no picks in this draft. Then you got a backup tackle, a developmental tackle, and a punter. You are a moron.
In the 4th round. Not just that, JC. Not just that.
Yeah, and again, now it's like they're finally seeing it. At the time, they were so immersed in like, this is the greatest, everything is great, everything that happens is great. Now it's being illuminated like this. I'm shocked how bad this is.
Your first move of the offseason for $8 million a year, you got arrogant and said my first move is going to be a running back. When you don't have a line to protect. And
by the way, we got a lot to talk about with Swift. Bears fans are done. They hate Swift. They loved him before. Oh, he's better than Josh Jacobs. He's $8 million for Swift. Swift isn't even an every down back. God, you're so stupid. Poles is so stupid.
Not only that, and maybe, here's the thing, maybe we will be proven wrong. Maybe every single offensive lineman taken ahead of Torrey Taylor will not be a good football player.
Which is a fantastic point, by the way. Because, again, not only is it stupid to take a punter, even if he's amazing, best punter in NFL history, that's stupid in the 4th round. Beyond that, look at all the deficiencies you have and recognize how many opportunities you had to address that in the draft. And rather than that, you took a punter. Unbelievable.
Maybe every single offensive lineman for this offseason will fail. But you know what you came into this season doing? You said, this is going to be a better situation than what Justin Fields was in. This is going to be better than what Justin Fields did. Guess what? It looks very similar to what we've seen out of Justin.
If not worse. The running back situation is worse. They had a really good running back situation with Justin Fields. They had a really solid road. Swift is not good. He's just not. The offensive line somehow is worse. It's the same guys, but they're worse at football. Because here's the thing, it's not just players, it's coaches. And you decided, despite the fact that you had players, you had really bad coaching, you kept the same offensive line coach. You kept him in place. Incredible.
Justin Fields. We are 3 weeks into the season. How many sacks does Caleb Williams have?
9?
13 sacks 13 on the season. You bring in Shane Waldron? That play, that speed option
Shane
play.
Waldron.
Dumb play. You know,
we'll get to that play, by the way. There's many clips just for that play.
what makes that play harder to be successful?
Lineman blocking?
All 4 of your offensive linemen laying on the ground.
They're looking at it like they're watching TV.
So there you go. And again, remember, this is all happening. This is the media that Bears fans are consuming. We're not getting it as much. I'm very pleased and honored to be the vessel for which you can understand the horrible things that are happening in Chicago, but you're not being bombarded by every single media person, national and local, saying things that make you mad. All the Caleb defenders, and not just Caleb defenders, but people that believe that it's going to be fine, everything's going to be okay, are being inundated with things like this.
I don't know how many times I have to say this, but Caleb Williams was never the solution.
Do you know how painful that sentence is for people? I mean, she's going to go on and talk about it for very, and I will agree or disagree to various degrees. Just to hear, because that's their whole existence as a Bears fan, relied on the fact that Caleb Williams will be the solution. And after 3 weeks, she comes out and says she's doing a victory lap because she always said Caleb is not going to fix this problem. And it looks like she's right.
The Bears' problem extends outside this roster, and if you haven't already started pointing fingers at the coaching staff in the front office, then it's time to do so. Yeah, on paper, what they've done for the team looks good, but Caleb still doesn't have pass protection. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have time to get good looks offensively in any of the games. And the only reason they beat the Titans is because the Titans gave that game away.
Yes.
Meanwhile, what the Bears thought was the problem, Justin Fields is undefeated as a Steeler, and arguably has less to work with there. For more on the NFL...
It's not arguable, unless you include the defense. But as far as his offense is concerned, who's their number? They got Pickens. He's pretty good. They don't have the firepower. They don't. And they're doing better.
NFL, follow Bailey Jackson Sports.
All right. Anyways, then we got Colin Cowherd. Now, Colin obviously is going to flip-flop all over the place. But again, he's kind of, if you're looking for a whatever those things are that indicate which way the wind's blowing, one of those deals, Colin's a pretty good indicator, right? And so he's where he goes, you can kind of get an idea where the national media is at. Here is what he is now saying, which I'm positive if you go back, he's been gushing about Caleb and it's going to transform and all this stuff. Where are we at now with our belief that the Bears and Caleb are going to be great?
We need to have a hard conversation. I don't think this coaching staff is going to work with Caleb Williams. I can't see the plan. It's bad backyard football. I mean, they faced a team yesterday in Indianapolis that doesn't defend the run, and they still couldn't run. The Cowboys...
Partially because they didn't try. He moves off to the Cowboys and some other teams, but yeah, now you got Caleb just basically giving up after 3 weeks. Not entirely, but think about exactly what he just said. I don't think it's going to work with this coaching staff. Now, maybe it gets better this year. That's possible. Maybe it's bad this year. They fire everybody. They bring in competent people, and they actually are able to make this. It's not impossible. But again, I just want you to consistently live vicariously through the Bears fans who believe that everything is great and everything's going to be just fine. This is all going to be okay. And remember, they pulled the same crap with Justin Fields and everybody agreed with them, and they allowed them to live in this state of euphoria despite things being awful. And nobody's doing that anymore. Nobody's supporting their bullcrap anymore. And we'll do a couple more here because I want to stay with the sort of organization. So they talked about polls and the front office / coaching staff. Let's specifically look at the offensive coordinator, which is hilarious because remember, the hilarity of this hire started when Bears media, one of the guys that I just played, I said he's one of the bigger bootlickers, whatever. He was one of the interviewers, along with some other CHGO guys, sat down with Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is a wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. He was his offensive coordinator was Shane Waldron, who the Bears hired, and he asked him, like, what are we getting? And there was like 5-6 seconds of silence. And he goes, is this live? And then even when he says, I was just joking, he goes on to basically just say, like, he's a great human being. And he's a great dude. Like, he at no point was he's a wizard, man. He's unbelievable. It's very obvious that in Seattle he was a joke, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him. And the Bears frickin' hired him. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the offensive coordinator.
This one stings so bad, it's not even funny. Last night, during their game against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Washington Commanders offense, the one key word to describe it looked fun. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Shane Waldron's Chicago Bears offense has me sitting here worried with that gut feeling in my stomach. If you have been a fan of a team with a bad offense, you know what I'm talking about. When your quarterback winds up to throw the ball, or just when the ball is snapped on offense, you get that gut feeling that just doesn't feel like something good's going to happen. When the Bears were looking for a new offensive coordinator, I liked Cliff a lot because when he was the Cardinals head coach, even though the Cardinals didn't have a crazy amount of success, he had that offense rolling like nobody's business. And I liked the Shane Waldron pick too when it first happened, but now that we just see it on the field, how do we get it wrong every single time? We always get it wrong. Some things just never change in Chicago Bears football, and one of those things that will never change might be picking a right offensive coordinator. Bear down.
Yeah. And that's just, again, you have the wrong offensive coordinator, which, again, I don't even know if that's 100% true. There are guys that have had success as offensive coordinators and whatnot that have come to Chicago and been, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the freaking water or the air or the top-down organization that somehow just something awful is trickling down from up there with the McCaskies. I don't know what they're doing that makes everybody terrible at their job or hate their life. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe someday, Ryan Pace or somebody will write a book. I don't know. It's a place you go for your career to die. Like you're looking real good, and then you go to Chicago, and then you suck, and then you have a hard time getting jobs elsewhere. And even when you go, look at the Chiefs. What the heck is his name? Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy was next in line. Chiefs offense was unstoppable. So Matt Nagy gets a job as a head coach. Everything goes awful. He gets a job again as an offensive coordinator, and people are now looking at the Chiefs saying the Chiefs offense sucks and it's Matt Nagy's fault. It's not even just that things were awful in Chicago. It's that you just suck at your job now. I wonder if they're just always late. They always pick up on guys that everyone else is done with, like Swift. Everybody's like, yeah, I think it's time to move on. And all the 30 other teams, the one that moved on plus the other 30 are looking at it going, yeah, I think he's cooked. And the Bears are like, ooh, really? It's like me when I first played fantasy football. I've mentioned this before. It was in like 2009 was my first year. And I saw big names like Ocho Cinco and stuff. And I grabbed them all up. I didn't realize they were washed. I just saw a big name and got excited. It's like the Bears are the only ones that just don't understand what everybody else understands. Just like they're going and getting the wide receiver from the Chargers. The Chargers have had him forever, and this is the year they say, okay, I think we're done. And the Bears are just like, I can't believe it. I mean, maybe we don't need a wide receiver, but for this price, are you kidding me? We got to take him. And the guy looks like he's 40 pounds overweight. He looks slow, and now he's injured. Probably because his body's not super taken care of. Have you seen him on the field? Like, people were making fun of him. Like, dude, that guy's fat. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just it's the padding. But why is he so slow? Oh, he's not slow. It looks that way because he's so big, which he isn't. Okay, whatever. And maybe that's what it was with, like, Matt Nagy. Like, or coaches in general. Like, that offense is kind of dead. right? It's not a good offense anymore. So people move on to new things, and they're like, oh, Matt Nagy, it's the offensive coordinator of the best offensive football. And then they hire him, and everyone's like, that's stupid. Like, nobody's scared of Matt Nagy anymore. Like, you got to evolve or whatever. I don't know. But they can never get it right for anything. They never get the right coaches. They never get the right coordinators. Maybe defensive coordinators. They don't get the right players. They just can't do it.
I need to show you guys how terrible Shane Waldron's red zone play calling is. It's 1st and goal. They're at the 2-minute warning, and they're going to run the ball here. It's a direct snap to DeAndre Swift. It picks up a couple yards. I'm okay with that. It's only 1st and goal. Here's the next play. It's 2nd and goal. This receiver is going to motion, and Shane Waldron calls an inside zone run, and this run doesn't get in for a touchdown. Stop just a yard short of the touchdown. Now it's 3rd and goal. Let's see what the Chicago Bears call. Let's see what Shane Waldron calls in the red zone. Reminder that the past 2 plays have been run plays. They both have been run plays. Calls a run again, an inside zone. It gets stuffed. 4th and goal. Can anybody guess what Shane Waldron is about to call here? He already ran the ball 3 straight times on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd and goal. Let's see if this play call is any different. The last 2 runs have been inside zone runs. Let's see if it's any different. Okay, different alignment. Oh, a read option. Oh, it gets stopped. I mean, what is this play calling inside the red zone, man? It's just a disaster.
So, so everybody's officially done with the offensive coordinator, right? Because even the loyalists have to put the blame somewhere. It has to go somewhere. They're not going to put it on Caleb, right? They refuse to do that. It's got to go somewhere. Probably going to go to that's usually where it goes first, offensive coordinator. Then when it gets real bad, it goes up the chain. It's the coach, whatever. That's good. That clip, by the way, will lead us into the next group, which is just about that last play, which broke Bears fan. Like that was the one, like, you frickin' idiot. We actually can win this game. And you call 4 runs and end up losing yards on the last one because you're that stupid. We'll take a break. We'll come back and take a look at some people commenting on that specific play. Here we go. Here's a very happy Bears fan for you.
Look at this picture. Just disregard the fact that there was 4 consecutive terrible play calls on the goal line when the Bears couldn't punch it in on 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal, and 4th and goal. But notice how all but one Bears offensive lineman is on their ass. No wonder this play went for negative 12 yards and the Bears turned it over on downs.
So if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have. That last play call, the funniest part, and maybe they're all just trying to chip block, I don't know. The entire offensive line for the Bears is laying on the ground. They're all laying on the ground. So with that, we might as well segue into the run game. Here are some Bears fans' thoughts on the Bears' current running situation.
What the is going on in those offensive line rooms, those running back rooms, where we can't march the ball down the field on the worst? It'd be different against the Texans. It's like, I got that. But the worst. That means it's only going to get worse from here. If we can't run against them, if you take this same offensive game plan and put it against all the other 31 teams or 30 teams, it's going to be worse. So, I don't know. I know I'm super hyped right now, but I'm like, bro, that's like the easiest part. Come on.
It's not the easiest part, though, because the Bears ran the ball early a lot. They just have no running game. Just because this is the worst defensive. First of all, it's early, right? We were 2 games into this. So the stats are still going to even out where Indy's at. But they were missing DeForest Buckner. And the Bears still could not run the ball. So for me, I think it's more of a matter that the Bears' run game is absolutely pitiful.
So that was a big thing coming into it. So, and even I thought maybe Caleb would have a big bounce back game, which I was hoping wouldn't happen. I didn't really expect them to just flat out lose, even though they were underdogs. But the biggest issues were, number one, Caleb was probably not going to be under as much pressure. Clearly that wasn't the case. And number 2, they're going to be able to run the ball, which should open things up. They couldn't run the ball. The Colts are bad at stopping the run. And as he said, maybe that'll even out. That might not be, they've only played 2 games. One of them was against the Packers, and we destroyed them on the ground, so that's going to make them look bad. But we did it, right? With the Colts deliberately trying to stop the run and couldn't. They're trying with their full team. right? You've got your starting everybody. You're starting off, I think they're down one offensive line. But you're starting offensive line, this running back you paid $8 million for, your starting quarterback, everybody's out there. And DeForest Buckner, their quote-unquote best player, certainly a solid run defender, is out, and you cannot run the ball. And will not, by the way. Here's a guy whose on Twitter is here for the Bears. So here's his thoughts on not just the run game, but this really good running back that they went out and got.
Watching DeAndre Swift play is frustrating and hilarious all at the same time. Ryan Poles should be embarrassed that he signed him to such a huge contract because he's one of the worst starting running backs in the league. He has some of the worst vision. Take a look at this play, bouncing this run to the outside. This defender's closing in, so DeAndre Swift can't cut this inside. Right now, DJ Moore is blocking on the outside. He has this corner sealed up. What DeAndre Swift should do is he should bounce this run to the outside, and there's an angle for him to get to the end zone. What does he do? He runs in directly into DJ Moore. You can't make this stuff up.
It's hard when you can't visualize it, and I would encourage you to go find this video. It is hilarious. So just to give you an idea, this isn't a compressed area. This isn't like when, occasionally you run into the back of a guy, it happens. DJ Moore is out way by himself blocking a wide receiver. There is a gap that has got to be 3, 4, 5 yards wide between where the offensive line of defense is and where DJ Moore is. Huge gap. And there is a defender coming in to hit the gap. So what he's saying is, draw him in, bounce to the outside, get around your blocker who's doing a good job, and go get a touchdown. And his decision was neither to go through the hole and try to take on the defensive player, nor was it to try to get in the hole and make him miss because there's a lot of space, nor was it to bounce to the outside. He ran into the back of his receiver. It reminds me of this is a story back when cars were brand new, the Model T was coming out, and it was in the state of Pennsylvania or something. There were only 2 cars and they got into a car accident. That's what this feels like. It's just you have all this space to make a decision, and you ran directly into the back of your blocking wide receiver. What are you doing?
First, I thought this play was going to be a great play from DeAndre Swift. There's nowhere to go with this run. He tries the best that he can. He avoids one defender. He avoids another defender. And he has this lane, right? This lane is juicy. Just get as much yards as you can at this point. This is a broken play. What does he do? He puts his shoulder into the defensive lineman. He rams into him. What? Why don't you just do that but going forward and pick up more yardage? DeAndre Swift is hilarious, man.
Again, you got to go find this clip. The only thing comparable that I can think of is when Antonio Brown kicked that kicker in the face on a kick return. Just so blatantly unnecessary. So what? Let me try to draw the picture for you. Again, a couple good cuts, make some guys miss. This is behind the line of scrimmage stuff. And then he gets to a point where there is a lane. Now it's going to close. There's kind of 2 guys that are there that are sort of staggered. You'll probably get past the one. He'll grab you from behind. The other one will hit you. You'll grab 5 yards on that, 6 yards, whatever. It happens all the time. No big deal. There is a defensive tackle that is about parallel with him. He's not really in the play at all. If you just run forward, he ain't going to get you. It's the other 2 guys. He stops, plants his feet, and launches almost in a backwards direction. It's almost to the side, perfectly to the side, but slightly back, and just throws as hard of a shoulder, almost like a block. It's almost like he's a blocker, and he's trying to stop that defensive tackle from making a tackle. He jumps backwards and throws a shoulder into a defensive tackle like he's trying to knock him out. You're the ball carrier, stupid. What are you doing? I've never in my life seen anything like that ever. Ever. I went back and looked at it. So let's say that's the 50-yard line. 5 yards back, that's the 45. He's at the 41-yard line. The defender is at the 40. The defensive tackle. Defensive tackle, who's, maybe, let's see, he's about 5 yards away from him toward the center of the field. He's on the hash mark. So however many yards that is from about almost midfield to the hash marks. And again, 1 yard behind him. He's never going to catch him. Ever. First of all, rather than Swift straightening out and coming up, he decides to kind of angle toward the defenders, which is the defensive tackle, who's still about a yard behind him, and this other defender. There's no reason to angle toward them. If you run straight, then they have to come to you. It makes it a little easier on you and harder on them. And then again, he does like a jump so that he plants. He plants like as hard as he can on that and as he comes down from his jump, just launches to the side. To the side. What are you doing? It's almost like he knows he's going to get hit and is like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to hit you first. Weirdest freaking thing I've ever seen in my life. This is this great running back that they went out and got. I just want to go back real quick. We got more videos. I just want to go back and look at what Bears fans were talking about. Captain Bears Hype Man on Twitter says Ryan Poles has signed, and he goes off and lists all these players, and of course DeAndre Swift is one of them, which, by the way, I bring that tweet up specifically because I constantly commented on these saying you can't just list names and then pretend like Ryan Poles has done something special. Because some of these guys are not good. You got DeAndre Swift is going to be a big part of the offense this year. You got a guy, Connor Allen. It's a lot of fantasy football stuff, but Connor Allen is talking about DeAndre Swift. It's like, why are we treating DeAndre Swift like he's undoubtedly locked into a four-way committee or whatever, right? He's talking about Swift. He's trying to figure stuff out. We got Swift gonna smash. Swift has a monster workload ahead of him. Hilariously, which, I mean, this probably would have been a better scenario. Like I said, he's not a 4-down back, 3-down back, whatever. Bears fan says it's a two-man rotation. They got Swift because they needed pass-catching back. Herbert is an amazing one-cut runner. Well, turns out that ain't the case. They got Swift to be your every-down back, and they're stupid. Somebody says Swift is underpriced. They got 15-yard pass to DeAndre Swift, large eyes. You know, this is the preseason hype. DeAndre Swift, 12-yard reception touchdown on a screen. Like, all these guys are getting so jacked up. Like, this is how it's going to go. Jacob Infante, who scores the Bears' first touchdown of the 2024 season? My guess, rushing touchdown from DeAndre Swift. Another Bears fan, how do you stop this? Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet. How do you stop it? Well, you start by shutting down a garbage running back like DeAndre Swift. It's a little strong language. He's not garbage, but you know. Fox on NFL Sports, August 28th, put top 10 running backs. Yes, Josh Jacobs made the cut. Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions made the cut. I think Aaron Jones of the Vikings should have. And you have, where's DeAndre Swift? Seriously, had Bears fans thinking DeAndre Swift was a top 10 running back. Underdog Fantasy put something out there, whatever. Whatever. It's a betting place. Guy says, I'm going to build generational wealth off of DeAndre Swift. Oh. We got DeAndre Swift would be a top 5 fantasy running back this year. Whatever. You get the idea, right? All right, let's get back to a couple of these. We got a couple different perspectives on Caleb. Let's actually start with the other one. Obviously, some Bears fans are like, this dude ain't it. Others have different perspective. We'll attack both of them from interesting perspectives. Here is Sports Rush Show.
Well, the Caleb Williams catastrophe continues on there in Indianapolis, with Caleb Williams doing what he has always done best, and that's not football. Before, again, you want to blame the offensive line. Caleb had time to throw today. He just holds on to the football, plays flat-footed, doesn't know how to go through progressions, doesn't know how to make reads, and doesn't know how to throw a football. In the NFL, it's fractions of a second to throw the football, and Caleb seemingly plays the quarterback position like he would a 7-on-7 tournament. Also, Caleb needs to eliminate this college football play where he loves to spin in the pocket and turn his back to the defense, tries to throw off platform, which seemingly always causes him to overthrow the ball. And again, I don't care if Caleb Williams threw for a bunch of yards on garbage time. He didn't throw the ball when it mattered most and made the plays when it mattered most. He just took these sacks because he was playing college football all over again, and it was obvious he didn't know what he was doing. And again, time to throw, not making the correct throws when they mattered most, and turning the ball over. That's what we saw today. Ultimately, this is just more Caleb Williams, college football 2.0, and they're trying to bring it to the NFL, and it's just not going to work. And this right here is how it's going to look for the rest of the season if the defense is decent. Caleb got away with a lot of bad play today, and he attempted 52 passes. Now, look, the Colts were also terrible on offense, so he got a lot more opportunities.
The video cuts off there, but you get the idea. Then we get this. This is, somebody made this. This is Caleb Williams' press conference, but they had AI dub over his voice. I got to learn how to do this. I've kind of seen it, but finding out how to do it in a way that I don't have to pay a bunch of money would be great. But here is this little funny skit.
I threw more passing yards today than any rookie quarterback in Chicago Bears history. I did that with the worst offensive line in the NFL. I did that with a brain-dead imbecile as my offensive coordinator. And I did that with a literal trash can with legs for a running back. Yeah, I might have thrown 2 picks today, and we might not have won, but I'm the best thing that's happened to the city of Chicago. Since Michael Jordan got drafted to the Bulls, Caleb Williams is the most talented quarterback that's ever played for the Bears. Nobody's better than me. My nail polish has more talent than that bum Jay Cutler. This poverty franchise should count as blessings that they had the opportunity to draft me. Anyways, I'll see you guys next Sunday.
Tell me that isn't hilarious. I mean, just by itself, it's a funny skit, but then, again, the fact that it's very likely a Bears fan just expressing their own opinions, those opinions which include the worst freaking offensive coordinator in the league and the running back being a trash can with legs. All right, we got just 2 more here. One of them is highlight, or I suppose it would be called a low light reel. And the last one is a just post-game depression. I think I'm going to do the post-game depression first because the low-light video is so good, and that's kind of how I want to end it. He's been a regular on the show also. It's funny because he's really just a huge Bears fan that really gets upset when things don't go well. And his whole thing has essentially just been him freaking out because the Bears suck, because that's just, unfortunately for him, been the entire existence of the Chicago Bears for a decade. But let's do this one first. This is a Chicago Bears fan. He's obviously had a couple cocktails, but he's coming out of Lucas Oil Stadium and just giving his recap of the Bears game.
All right, walking out of Lucas Oil, the Bears lost, and it was just a completely miserable experience, top to bottom. Our coaching staff is just rocks in their heads, just absolute rocks in their heads. Like, everyone got so excited in this team and then stopped to remember for 1 second who our head coach is. There's absolute rocks in his heads with his timeout management at the end. Offensive coordinator running Wildcat, diving 3 times with Curley Herbert at the end of the first half. Then we run a speed option. And then we give our rookie quarterback the worst offensive line we've seen in a long time since Jamarcus Webb. Absolutely miserable. Half of that stadium was Bears fans, too. Everyone made the trip. Everyone's excited. And that's what we get. Now we all get to go hop on I-65, sit in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and headbutt our heads against the steering wheel. Bear down.
It is painful, too. I'm not generally sympathetic to Bears fans, but the fact that I feel like I'm kind of on the same page and they're acknowledging reality is allowing me to feel a little sympathy, that sucks. Come on, this was the one. I'm not saying, they won a game before, but the Titans game has sucked or whatever, but, nobody wanted to watch the Texans game because you're probably going to lose that game. But this game, this is going to be Caleb's breakout game. This is the one you're going to want to beat to. This is the one you're going to tell your grandkids about. And they drive, granted, it's not cross country, but from Chicago, I'm guessing he's from Chicago based on his accent. He's deep in downtown Chicago. But he drives from Chicago to Indianapolis and has to witness that. And and again, now you have to drive home. Oh, by the way, this guy's name is Eddie Barstool, so I'm guessing he's actually one of the Barstool guys. How many? I just want to see how many. 7,000 followers. Yeah, so probably. All right, so we're going to end it with one of my absolute favorite things in the world. I remember actually kind of watching some of his content. I really liked it. I appreciate him. He's just a diehard fan. I think he's a lot of us. When things are great, he is just screaming. When things are bad, he's screaming. It's one of the things where I watch a game, I get emotional about bad things, and I try to keep it in check, but people are like, bro, you're so negative. It's like, I don't know, man. This is just fandom to me. It's a roller coaster. It's crazy. So I understand where he's coming from, and I again, like, it's the best thing for me every week to watch his reaction to the Bears lose. But I also, I feel, because I can see the hope in his eyes. Right now, I'm looking at it. Before I push play, there's hope. It's 0-0. 9:39 in the second. 3rd and 4. He has belief in his eyes. Here we go. This is it. By the way, you guys have a good day.
Pressure's coming! He threw a pick! No! They hand it off. Taylor, make a tackle. Oh my God. Unbelievable. Please, Caleb. What are we doing? That's the worst play call I've ever seen. Don't take a hit. Oh my God.
He caught it, but he's short. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Rome. There we go. Come on, boys. We're back in it. Play fake. Caleb. Watch out! That's how it ends. Taylor. That's it, boys. Oh, the Bears are going to lose. All right, anyway.